So we're going to start easing into the work. And what I'd like to do over the next half an hour is just to take you through how the process is going to work. And we'll have a little bit of a dummy run. The first thing that you guys need to be doing is to make sure that you've got access to the Chime platform on your phones. So if you want to be doing that and you don't have it yet, it's on the inside of the back page. There's a QR code there, and you can start going. If you already have it, just please have it open and ready. So let's just quickly have a little bit of background. There has been a number of decades of change leading up to where we are at the moment. And in the pre-2000s, there was very limited funding and awareness of cholangiocarcinoma. Research was largely focused on broader liver disease and biliary diseases, but not really focused on cholangiocarcinoma. We then move into the 2000s. There's a growing recognition at this point around cholangiocarcinoma's unique challenges. The NIH and some other bodies start funding specific grant calls for cholangiocarcinoma. And we are beginning to see the emergence of some advocacy groups like AMMF, which is the UK cholangiocarcinoma charity, as well as the Cholangiocarcinoma Foundation. And then we move into the 2010s. At this point, there's a notable increase in funding and attention to this cancer. There's expansion of genomic and molecular studies. There's an increased interest from industry, pharmaceutical industry, in terms of identifying new treatments. And we're also beginning to see some of the collaborative networks emerging. So the International Cholangiocarcinoma Research Network and the European Network for the Study of Cholangiocarcinoma. And so here we are in the 2020s. There is continued growth driven by advancements. We know about precision medicine. You've heard about immunotherapy, increasing funding from government as well as private sectors for research. Ongoing support from foundations and new advocacy groups getting set up in Japan, in Canada, in Spain with Atuvibi, in Italy with APIC, and so on. And there's an increasing focus on early detection, personalized treatments, and molecular understanding of the disease. So we can see that there has been progress over the past few decades. And this is evidenced on the left by the number of research publications that mention cholangiocarcinoma or that are focused on cholangiocarcinoma. You can see that over the past 25 years, there's been a steady increase in publications. The last one is the current year, so it's not a full year yet. And I think the research interests have all developed in individual centers driven by individual researchers with a specific interest. So a lot of the funding and the research may have been happening in silos. And I think what we see as the way forward is an alignment of the funding, alignment of the direction that we're all heading in, so that we are as a community leading the field. And with that, it's really a partnership that we're doing this year for the Cholangiocarcinoma Consensus Conference. So Nilo Azad, one of our co-chairs, is a GI medical oncologist and professor of oncologist at Johns Hopkins, and associate director of cancer research. She also co-chairs our Scientific and Medical Advisory Board and the ICRN Next Generation Committee. We have Ben Stanger, who is professor of medicine and cell and developmental biology and a gastroenterologist at the University of Pennsylvania. He also co-chairs our Scientific and Medical Advisory Board, as well as the ICRN Research Committee. And we have two additional co-chairs this year, Drs. Chiara Bracconi and Rocio Macias. Chiara Bracconi is an academic medical oncologist with a focus on biliary tract cancer based in Glasgow, UK, and is the vice chair of the European Cost Action Precision BTC Network. More about that on the next slide. and also Rocío Macías, who's a professor at the University of Salamanca in Spain with a focus on biomarkers for diagnosis and response to treatment. And she's the chair of the Cost Action Precision BTC Network. So this is a collaboration between the ICRN and the Precision BTC Network team in Europe. And you can see that that's reflected then in how the groups are set up, as I'll come on to that. The Precision BTC Network is funded by a European grant. It's called a Cost Action. COST means Cooperation in Science and Technology. This is the second one focusing on biliary tract cholangiocarcinoma. The first Cost Action was a very successful one that was run by Jesus Bañales and Vincenzo Cardinale. And it was really on the fact that that was such a successful one that the EU then funded this second Cost Action, which is a grant lasting a period of 4 years. And the cost actions are typically made up of researchers from academia, SMEs, public institutions, other relevant organizations or interested parties. And this one is specifically focused, of course, on biliary tract cancer. It's about having a network of clinicians, investigators, scientists working together with industry partners. And you can see here from the map from the website, predominantly based in Europe, but not exclusively so, including representation here from the US. And Stacey and I are honored to be part of that network. And you can see at the bottom right the number of different participants within that, and many of the working group chairs for this group is also in the room today, and thank you for working collaboratively with us. And so we come to our conference. We want to be very clear about what the objectives are. We know this is a rare cancer. We know that funding is limited in terms of research, and we know that that is also, we're in a tight environment, as Melinda mentioned earlier. So that means we need to be very mindful, very specific, very targeted in what we're doing and how we're doing it. So this conference is aiming to identify what are the research priorities so that we can, first of all, align the available research funding that we do have, but also to allow investigators maybe to bring in additional funding from other grant awarding bodies so that overall there is an increase in funding for cholangiocarcinoma research. So we set up in around August time last year, 10 different working groups. You can see going around diagnostics and intervention, surgery, industry and regulatory, science discovery, science translational, patient advocates and supportive care, local regional and radiation, pathology, biomarkers and early detection, which I know is something people are very interested in, as well as systemic therapies. So what we did is we identified groups of experts in all of those topics focused on cholangiocarcinoma, with a good balance between the ICRN and the European BTC Precision Network. Each working group consisted of expert members. They've been supported by an early mid-career researcher. We've also been able to support the groups with a patient research advocate, and some of the groups, not all of them, also had a member of the Nursing Advisory Board. And the idea was that they would spend the time over the past few months delving into the literature to try and identify where are the research gaps that we need to put funding in going forward. We had an initial survey in the autumn of last year, just flushing out some ideas. This was sent to ICRN members, ENSCA members. We did also have some feedback from patient research advocates and industry. And that allowed the working groups to have a little bit of an idea of what the community was thinking, although they could focus on any of the priorities on that list or even some additional ones. So today, tomorrow, and Friday is really the culmination of a lot of work that's been going on, and I want to acknowledge all of the groups that have been working in the background. There have been 129 people working. They've had over 40 meetings that we know about. There may have been some additional Zoom calls that we didn't know about, but particularly towards the end when people were trying to align some of the presentations. And we have received a total of 56 recommendations across all of the groups. Now, what we need to do over the next 3 days is to go through all of those recommendations and get your input, get your feedback, make sure if you agree that you agree, and if you don't agree, we need to try and understand why you don't agree so that we can then discuss that and maybe amend the wording. So what will happen at the next couple of days is that members of the working groups, sometimes it'll be one presenter, it may be 2 or 3, maybe even more, but they will come and present what were the findings of their particular group. Once they have given you a little bit of background so you can make a decision, they will then make a recommendation. And then that recommendation will be open to a vote by everyone, which is why you need to have your app. It's very simple: agree, disagree, or abstain. And what we just want to know is if you do agree, that's fine. If you disagree, please feel free to make a comment, make a statement, ask a question. We want everybody to be involved so that we can then make sure that if we do move forward with a consensus recommendation, that it really has come with agreement from the community. Just to quickly go back, we are going to have the opportunity to vote again. So there will be a recommendation with wording. We will be able to change the wording and re-vote, and change it once more and re-vote, and then we stop. If we've not managed to achieve a consensus at that point, we just say we could not achieve consensus, we move on to the next topic. We're not going to be flogging one particular recommendation until we all get consensus. And then once we've got all those consensus agreed, then we will move to a publication which the researchers will be able to use to help to drive forward the research and get the funding. So at this point, it's time to get to work. I hope you all have your Chime platform open. If not, just point to the QR code. If you're too far away, just look in the inside of your program. It's inside the back page. And you don't need to be looking for the agree, disagree, abstain. Once a recommendation is made, that will be pushed to the platform. So if you have the platform open, it will just appear. You can then vote. Make sure you press submit so that your vote counts. And then we can make sure that everybody's vote is registered. Okay, this will come back up again. Don't worry about the QR code. Your response to the polling question will be linked to you according to your registration type. We have 2 broad groups: patients and caregivers and professionals. And you'll see why that makes a little bit of a difference. So this is just an example. This is not a real question. Don't vote now. But this is roughly what it would look like. It looks slightly different. So for example, if this is a recommendation, the use of ctDNA during therapy is a research priority, then you would be asked to vote agree, disagree, or abstain. Some people might say, well, for surgery, it might not be a priority, but it might be for systemic therapy. So then we would have that discussion and maybe change the wording. We will then be able to see how people have voted, so how many people have voted, and we'll also have the percentages that come up in a bar chart like this. We want to know if patients and caregivers feel the same as the professionals. But we need to take the lead from the professionals in terms of an academic consensus, and that needs to reach 80%. So we will have 2 numbers that come up, but we will make the decision on whether a consensus has been reached by looking at the professional bar. That does not mean that patients and caregivers' votes don't matter. In fact, it matters all the more. We want to know if your priorities are the same as the research community, or is there a difference, and then we can start looking into those differences as part of this, the process of the next part of this process. So let's have a quick test question. Open up your apps, and I'm hoping that you will have a thing sent to you. Yes, please vote now. So press agree, disagree, or abstain. Make sure you submit. If you see somebody struggling next to you, give them a hand. Okay, last 10 seconds to get your vote in. Great. So we have close to 200 professionals who voted, 71 patients and caregivers, and we did not reach a consensus. Okay. But you can see that there was a majority vote for agree. Coffee is the most important meal of the day. So what would then happen is that we would discuss people who don't agree to try and reach that 80% and change the wording. But if there's a problem, then we iterate once, iterate twice, and then move on. So we're not going to do that on this one. We're going to move on to the next question so that we test once again how well you're working, see how slick we can get. So the second question that we have, oops. The question open to the audience is, pineapple should be an acceptable pizza topping. You may agree, you may disagree. Have a look at your chime. Please feel free to vote and submit. Okay, 10 seconds. I think that really split the room. I don't think we'd ever get a consensus on this one, given so 50-50. Okay, and we're going to try just one more. I hope you're getting into the idea of it. The next question. Cats are better pets than dogs. Not controversial at all. Hopefully you will see your options appearing on your chime. Last 10 seconds. Okay, now we'll see who the cat and dog lovers are. Disagree. And I think on the patient side, we nearly got consensus. Maybe we can ask anybody from patients and caregivers, what would take us over the 80%? How can we change this statement? Okay, so can we just quickly change this to cats are better pets than dogs if you are not allergic? So we're just changing I can see the wording here changing in the background. Okay. No pressure on the person behind. So the chairs of the groups will be able to see the wording being changed. And just to quickly say, while we're waiting for that to happen, you'll see that there is a table here with a spotlight on it. That table is reserved for the working group who is presenting at the time. So that table will always be changing because as we have discussion, there will be questions for the group. There are microphones on that table so that they can respond to those questions. And then when their group is finished and another group takes over, then that table will turn around. So that's the only table that you'll see quite a lot of activity, people coming and going. Okay, so I think we're ready to go. Cats are better pets than dogs if you're not allergic. Please, you should be receiving your notification. Vote now. And we're only going for 30 seconds this time. We'll close it out at 30 seconds. So you have 7 seconds left. 2. Okay, we'll close that. And we still didn't quite get consensus, although it moved to 71% from patients and caregivers. As we're focusing on the professionals for the research questions, you can see we're nowhere near reaching a consensus. So I hope you now feel ready. That's how it's going to work, obviously, with a bit more of a serious topic. So I think we're now going to take a break. We'll reconvene again at 10:30. We've deliberately built in time for networking. So please get coffee, water, stretch your legs. If you need help with your Chime app or the voting, please go to the registration desk. There are people there who'll be able to help you get that set up. Patients and caregivers, please visit the Citizen Health booth in the main registration area to learn about the registry. It takes only a few moments to join, and your involvement helps advance research that we're discussing here this week. See you all at 10:30.